Okay. And you are live. All right. Hello and welcome. Thanks for your patience. Jesse Bayer, Carl Marsan, Abundant Living, Ecuador. Carl is in a very secretive, undisclosed location, somewhere in Ecuador with beautiful mountains and unseasonal rain behind us. It's raining here in Vilcabamba as well. I'm at the office, which is strange for June, but we've got a few days of rain here. Normally we'd be into dry season at this point. Thanks for joining us. We do apologize for being a few minutes late, as is often the case. Let's jump right in. We'll go ahead and mention we do have about 20 people right now signed up for the first ever Abundant Living Retreat that starts on July 16th. That's really exciting. We have it capped at 30 people, so I think we've got somewhere about 8 or 10 spots left for that. That's really going to be a lot of fun. So I would definitely recommend, if you're thinking about Vilcabamba, you're thinking about Ecuador in general, you want to get sort of an 8-day all-encompassing experience where you get to know Vilcabamba, get to know all of the areas, get all of the information, the panels, the Q&As. We're even having a health day, which has turned into a whole sort of like health fair. That's going to be really fun as well. We'll have tours of all the areas. Again, all the Q&A stuff, agriculture, visa information, legal, taxes, community, safety, you name it. That's just off the top of my head. There's probably a whole bunch more. So that's going to be a lot of fun, very comfortable. It'll be at what's considered the nicest hotel in Vilcabamba. So definitely done with comfort in mind, comfortable vans, the whole nine. So July 16th is the start date on that. We'd love to see you there. I'm going to go ahead and grab the link to that as well and throw it in the chat so you guys can sign up. And Carl, if you want, while I'm doing that, if you can see the questions, if you want to go ahead and jump right in.
Sounds good. Yeah, I just wanted to mention it's been raining for the last week, a little bit here and there. It's not very common for the month of June. It's actually very nice because things are still really green and nice. And usually, by June, July, it starts getting dry. But we're still getting some rain. So there's maybe slight changes in the climate and the weather, but so far it's really positive. So that's actually cool. All right, let's jump right into it. Nathan Mansfield is asking, hey guys, I have 2 questions. Today I arrived there on a Saturday and want to know when the Saturday market closes. Also, if I'm not coming to the retreat but still want to meet up, is that possible? Nathan, welcome to Ecuador. Welcome to Vilcabamba. You'll be here on Saturday. That's awesome. The market closes probably around 2-3 p.m. maybe, or maybe earlier than that. I'm not really sure.
Yeah, I don't think it goes that well. I mean, there might be a person or two still around at that time, but by 11, 12, everything's gone basically.
Oh yeah, exactly. I was gonna say come early because all the best stuff, is like go at 8, maybe 8 a.m. Or 9.
7. Yeah, I mean the earlier the better.
Yeah,
I've noticed like the 7 a.m. selection is quite a bit better than the 8 a.m. selection.
Nice. And yeah, of course you can come meet us at the office. I mean, we're there every day from Monday to Friday. So you're welcome to swing by. Very easy to find. You can just ask around. They'll point out where our office is, and we'll be happy to meet you.
It's even on Google Maps as well.
Right.
Cool. So Diana says, so we are on Ecuador time. Yes, we are. Well, I was actually out at a project here just a few minutes from town, scouting out lots, seeing what we can do out there. So it did run over a little bit. And yes, we are on Ecuador time, or at least I am. All right. Roman asks, will you be going over the questions from the canceled show? Some real gems got lost from that episode. In fact, Carl sent me those. Let me pull those up real quick and let's start there. Okay. So which cities around Vilcabamba are on sewer? All of them. Any urban area has sewer. What is the used car market like in Loja? Easy to find a reliable used car. Same questions for motorcycles. Some people go to Cuenca or Quito or other markets just because they have more selection. You can certainly buy used cars locally, either in the private market or at the various car lots. Certainly you'd want to have those checked out well by a mechanic. Yeah, anything to add to that?
Yeah, sorry, I just muted myself for a second. Yeah, no, you basically said it all. Some people say you got more variety of choices, like in Quito and Cuenca. Typically, it's not recommended to buy on the coast because of the rust that can come from the salt water and stuff, like the humidity.
Yep. Okay. Roman also asks, any update on transportation projects around Loja? Have they started to build the tunnel to Catamayo yet? They have not. We'll see if that ever happens. But usually once something is talked about, eventually it does happen. But there are 2 roads to Catamayo, both paved, good roads, not difficult to get there at all. What are popular businesses in Loja, ones that locals use? Loja has changed a lot over the last, since I got here in 2013. When I got here in 2013, there was really very few, almost none, really high quality restaurants, trendy looking shops, nice shops, boutique shops. There's very, very few. Since then, they've done a whole regeneration project. The city, it's not, I don't know, it's up to in the eye of the spectator if you call it gorgeous or not. Certainly the mountains around it are gorgeous, but it's been upgraded significantly. The downtown area is nice now for sure. And all of the trends have come in. So there's kinds of, there's all kinds of little boutique and sort of trendy businesses and shops and restaurants that you would see anywhere in the world. Now they have them in Loja. It's still early on in that fate, in that trend. So there's still a lot of opportunity there in Loja for sure. And good entrepreneurs are having success, bringing new businesses like that to the market. But yeah, I don't know, popular businesses specifically that come to mind. I mean, certainly restaurants are popular. All the normal stuff I think you'd find anywhere in the world. I don't know, Carl, is there anything that would be sort of out of line with what you'd find in any other city?
No, people are actually surprised. I take clients to Loja quite often to open bank accounts, and do some paperwork stuff at the notary. And a lot of Westerners are surprised how Loja basically has everything that you find in any major cities in the world. It's not a very big city, but there's a lot of boutiques. There's a lot of, there's a Rolex store. There's like things that, Western, high-end stuff in a small city like Loja. So pretty much everything you can find in Loja, yeah.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, just to touch on that real quick, a friend of mine, him, Carl, Julio, was asking me the other day. We were going around. He's a developer, and we were going around looking at some different projects and talking business the other day, and he was asking me, why are all the foreigners in Cuenca? Why are they not in Loja? And I was joking with him, and his reason being like, Loja's nicer, Loja is better, was his perspective, and I share that perspective, and I said to him, I was like, well, the truth of that is that some foreigners went there about 25 years ago and started writing about it. And so, to Cuenca. And so it just happened to be Cuenca that got on the map. But Loja's kind of a smaller Cuenca. But the difference is that it's about 15, close to 1,500 feet lower in elevation. And therefore it has a much better climate than Cuenca, much less crime than Cuenca. Certainly Cuenca is larger. So Cuenca has the better restaurants, the better sort of nightlife and certain cultural things and things like that. But it's less livable. Loja is a much more livable city, much more just sort of has that small town vibe. And it's a much better climate. I think it's very much in the process of, becoming a popular place for expats, but it's very early on in that still.
Yeah, and I would just add to that Cuenca has a lot of the historical, historical centers and stuff. Loja has a small one, but I think Cuenca probably looked a little bit better back in those days as well, when people started writing about it, when it became on the map. But there has been a huge revamp of the city of Loja. I don't know how many years back, was it 6, 8 years back? But Loja looks a lot better now. Like the streets look better. All the power lines, at least in the center, are now underground. I mean, it just looks better overall than it did probably back then. So
for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, when I first rolled into Loja in 2013. Yeah, it was not a good looking city at all. And it's decent looking now for sure. Okay. What are trends that you see growing in popularity in Ecuador? Oh, are any trends, sorry, any trends that you see growing in popularity in Ecuador for the locals? I guess if I had to summarize that, I would just say Ecuador, generally speaking, is behind on global trends. So you just kind of see stuff that you might have saw becoming popular in the States in the 70s, 80s, and 90s are becoming popular here now, right? Or the early 2000s, things like that, right? So, and that's not true. You know, different places are different, right? If you're talking Guayaquil or Quito, those would be much more in line with anywhere in the world. In this area and some other markets, you know, it's a bit behind. I mean, when I got here in 2013, the health trend was kind of just beginning, and people were starting to eat like soy products, right? Which were considered healthy in like the 90s in the US, and then later people realized actually they're not healthy, but it's very far behind often on those trends here. And so people were starting to get this tofu and the tempeh and the different, you know, soy products, thinking that it's like a healthy alternative. And so we're starting to see now, like there's some, you know, there's a couple of one or two now pet hotels, you know, pet grooming sort of hotel type stuff in Loja. There was never any of that before, right? So those kinds of things that you'd see anywhere, but here is definitely behind. Other trends that I'm definitely seeing are, and I think this is happening globally, is a move out of the cities into the country. So areas surrounding cities are really sort of booming for that reason as people leave the city for the country. So that's been an interesting trend. Any trends that you've noticed, Carl?
Yeah, that's a good question. One thing that came to mind, because I've been looking at Airbnbs, because I wanted to go on a little outing with my family. And, you know, back in the days, I don't think there were that many things available. I think it's a big trend that started here. People from the city, they want to get out for the weekend, and they don't necessarily have a place in the country. But, you know, people are paying big money to, big money. They're paying like a premium to stay a few days at like a nice home with a swimming pool and a barbecue area and stuff like that, you know. There's a lot of those available, so are becoming available. So I think that's definitely probably a good business to get into, you know, the Airbnb market. That's one thing I've noticed. Another thing that's mostly for export, but Ecuadorian coffee is like kind of now on the map as like a specialty coffee. Someone recently, an expert in that field, told me a little bit more about it. But Ecuador produces very little coffee compared to other countries. So like Ecuador has a premium as like a specialty sort of unique coffee for export. So so I think that's also a good business, a trend. A lot of producer here, small coffee producers are, you know, roasting and making their own coffee products and exporting it. Those are two things that come to mind.
Yeah, great points. Those are absolutely trends here. Okay, if I grew commercial quantities of fruits for export, are there packing facilities that will buy my products, or do I have to build the infrastructure for a successful agricultural business myself? Wow, that's a great question that I should know the answers to that, and I don't. There's definitely would be packing facilities for the stuff that is currently exported. There's also buyers who will buy your stuff from you to export. So anything, you know, cacao, coffee, banana, shrimp, let's see, I'm missing several certainly, but all of that kind of stuff that's commonly exported there would definitely be packing facilities and various distribution channels for that. For items that are not as commonly exported, I don't know. I don't know if you'd find those facilities or if you'd have to build out that infrastructure yourself. That's a great question. Actually, you piqued my interest. I'll try to find that out here the next couple of weeks. Is it common? Actually, I can't. There's something in there. It says, is it common to something cook to come? Oh, I guess hire probably. Is it common to hire a cook to come over to your house? I'm going to assume is that question. Yes, it is. It's in the neighborhood of $400 a month, and you can have a full-time person to do anything you want, watch the kids, clean your house, cook. Certainly you could have someone come for half-time, quarter time, if you just want them to cook some meals, and that'll be much less expensive, but it is common and very inexpensive as well. CBD, is it legal to consume? Is hemp legal to grow? Is a license required? So fascinating moment for that question. So I'm sorry, it's a CBD. I think I said CBD. So CBD, I don't know, Carl, if CBD with THC is legal at this point or not. It will be legalized here over the next year or so for sure. It is sold, and so you can certainly find it without any problem. I don't know. Excuse me. I don't know if it's actually technically legal or not, but it is
My
now.
understanding,
Go ahead.
well, just about the THC part, my understanding is there's I think it's 1%, 1% THC, 99% CBD, I guess, like it's a small amount. I think in the US for typical CBD products is 0.3%. So it's like a third of a percent, right? Here they've upped it up to 1% THC. So there's a little more loose when it comes to CBD specifically.
Okay. So yeah. Oh, okay. Right. And you're right. So the CBD oil certainly is legal, right? The THC piece is the part where you can be illegal. Thanks for clarifying that. And then hemp is legal now. So hemp is now legal. You do need a license. We're actually in the process of acquiring a license, not only to grow the hemp, grow the marijuana, but to be able to process it as well into CBD. So those are two different licenses. We actually have the contacts for that. And yes, you can do that now in Ecuador. It's really interesting because it's a brand new industry here. So if you look at sort of what happened in the US when that was a new industry, if something similar happens here, it's an interesting time to be entering into the market.
Yeah, and just on a side note, I was in Loja a few days ago and went to the pharmacy to buy something, and I was surprised that right in the mainstream large pharmacy in Loja, they were selling CBD oil now. This is the first time I noticed. I don't know if you've seen that before, Jesse.
No, I haven't. But, Ecuador is a very open-minded place when it comes to alternative medicine. So it's very common here for people to be selling cures of various kinds for various things, different medicinal plants, different tinctures and mixtures. And, that's something that's common and accepted here. There's a lot of sort of ancestral and indigenous knowledge about what plants cure what, and there's different shamans and healers and people you can go to who will do all that kind of stuff and help cure people of various ailments. Okay, if you had to guess, how many gringos live in Loja? How about Malacatos? Gosh, the Loja part of that is really a tough question. If I had to guess, and this really is a guess, it's not even a super educated guess, I would probably say you probably have somewhere between 2,000 and 5,000 foreigners living in Loja, something like that, which is tiny for a 250,000 person city, right? So, and that might even be high. Like it's possible it's 1,000. I really don't know. But there's not a ton. You do see foreigners, certainly. I know I have a lot of foreigners who are friends who live there. People live there, but it's a very small community. Malacatos, certainly much less than that. Malacatos is a small town. I don't know, Carl, what's your best guess? 100, 200 maybe in Malacatos, something like that?
Yeah, somewhere between 200 and 500, somewhere around there, I would say. In Malacatos. Now, Vilcabamba, that would not include Vilcabamba. No. Sometimes people confuse Vilcabamba and Malacatos, so I'm just making the distinction. Vilcabamba, there's a lot more than in Malacatos for sure. Maybe around 1,500 we're talking about now. Somewhere around there in Vilcabamba. There's no official figures, we're guessing, but you can tell there's a lot of expats in Vilcabamba. You just walk around town for 5 minutes, and it's very, very obvious.
Yep. Okay, can you give us, does Ecuador accept coins from the USA, quarters, dollars, dimes, etc.? Yes, it does. Can you give us an understanding of the yearly humidity levels in Loja and Vilcabamba? How does it feel with humidity? So I'm gonna answer this as best I can, but I don't have official stats on this. You probably could find some stats on the internet. I don't know how accurate they would be. I don't consider Loja or Vilcabamba to be humid myself at all. Now, I have a client who's become a friend who thinks it's humid here. So I have a hard time answering that at this point. Like she complains about the humidity all the time. I don't know what she's talking about. I feel like this is, so I come from New York and Vermont. I come from the Northeast US, where when it was humid, right, it was very sticky. There's no such thing as that here. I've never felt that here ever. That's really sticky. There might be a few days in the course of a year, in Vilcabamba, where it'd be like slightly sticky. There is a rainy season and a dry season. Obviously, when it's rainy season, there's a little more moisture in the air. I don't consider this to be a humid climate at all. I don't know, Carl, what your thoughts are.
No, I completely agree with what you said. I mean, you can feel the difference if you compare when it's really, really dry season compared to the rainy season. There's the humidity, you can feel a slight difference. But if you compare it to the U.S. East Coast or I'm from Canada as well, in the summertime, it's so sticky. Like you're sweating constantly. Everything's just, you have to have a fan, you have to have air conditioning. You don't need that at all here. Like zero. Like nobody has air conditioning in Vilcabamba, even in the rainy season. Like it wouldn't make a lot of sense to have it.
Yeah, good. So we agree. So I'm going to say I'm not the crazy one on that, but you never know. Okay, where are we at here? How many expats last 7+ years in Ecuador? Is there a high turnover rate? It's a great question. I think there probably is a high turnover rate, especially probably in Cuenca, but because a lot of people come and go in Cuenca, and I think people sometimes go to Cuenca kind of for the wrong reasons. Also, I think people sort of go for solely economic reasons and not because they're interested in actually living in Ecuador. And then they realize that everything is different here and they pack it up and go home. But I think in general, really in any foreign country, I think there's a decent amount of turnover as people just have phases in their life and they have expectations and they have, just people who like to live in other countries also sometimes are a little bit nomadic anyway. You find some of that, but it's both, right? I think most of the friends that I have in Vilcabamba, have been here a really long time. Occasionally somebody leaves, but I could probably, there was a bunch of people that left in like 2014 thereabouts. Since then, I could probably count on one hand how many good friends, like not even good friends, but just friends, how many actual sort of friends have left Vilcabamba in this area. If I think about my group of friends, which is, somewhat overlaps with your group of friends, I mean, people have been here a long time or have come in the last year or two and certainly have no plans on leaving. But a lot of them have been here, since around when I got here in 2013, a little before then, a little bit after that. I don't know what kind of percentage, to put on it, but certainly some people come and end up leaving. Usually you can almost kind of tell, someone is here for a little while. You can kind of tell if they're fitting in and enjoying it or not. But I don't know. What are your thoughts on it?
Yeah. I've been here. It's going to be 11 years in August. So I've seen a lot of people coming and going. Just to add to what you said, like I agree with everything you said. I would say what I'm surprised to is the amount of people that have left and came back, because there's actually a lot of that. People have gone, checked out other places, try to see if they could, and eventually they realize that, there's so many pluses and positives about this place compared to wherever they went, that they decide to come back. So it always makes me feel good about my decision to live here, because a lot of people are coming back. We have a few friends actually that left recently, some families that are going, but that they're planning on coming back also. So that happens sometimes. People go back for financial reasons, to go back to work, to go see family, to do something specific, but have the intention to come back. So yeah.
Are there opportunities for small investors like $20,000? Yeah, absolutely. There's multiple. So there's different business opportunities. You can buy into businesses. Ecuador has a really interesting dynamic in that, which is that there is more opportunity than there is capital to take advantage of that opportunity. So the returns on capital can be much higher. Banks will pay 6, 7, 8% interest on long-term CDs, just to give you an idea of sort of baseline return on capital. Opportunities come to me frequently where people are looking for capital to finance various businesses that they have or investments that they have, where you can get a lot of return for or let's say shares in a company if that's the structure. and a very profitable company for a small amount of investment. So there's opportunities like that all over the place. We're actually setting up as well an investment fund because we do all sorts of investing in this country in residential real estate development, agriculture, and other things. We're actually setting up a fund where we'll be able to take on those kinds of amounts, larger and smaller amounts, as well. So you can stay tuned for that with us as well. The returns on those are excellent. And then there's also stuff you can do on your own, right? So you can go into areas where land is really inexpensive. And you could buy, a little $8,000, $10,000, $12,000 piece of land, subdivide it, put some roads in, sell off lots, double your money, triple your money, and then kind of grow from there. So there's all kinds of opportunities. 20 obviously is a low number. That's kind of the lowest I think you could probably start to do some stuff with, but there are opportunities at that level. Anything to add to that?
No.
Are there any adventure outdoor companies in Vilcabamba, hiking and walking tours, climbing and biking? Is there a need for outdoor companies? Roman, I'd love to talk to you about that. There is some of that stuff. I don't know how great they are. We're actually a small tour company, which is very funny because we're actually in the process of launching a tour company ourselves. But a small company just launched a tour. A group of people just launched a small tour company in Vilcabamba in the last week or two. They look pretty interesting, the tours. Forget the name of the company. It might be Vilcabamba Tours or something. But so there's that, and then there is some other small tour companies as well. But I would say there is absolutely a demand for that to be done well, especially the outdoor stuff. So if that's something you're interested in, we should chat because we're looking to actually get into that just sort of as a value add service for people who are looking at Vilcabamba or in Vilcabamba. Good evening, gentlemen. Just ordered my passport. Can't wait to head out to Ecuador. Awesome. We look forward to seeing you here. Can I convert my tourist visa to work permit and later permanent resident? Okay, so I think I don't know if you mean work permit or if you mean temporary resident, but yes, you can do both. The work visa, I don't know the specifics of as well, but that comes down to basically just a company hiring you, and then there is a way to get a work visa. The temporary resident visa you can get as well from the tourist visa. It'd be better to come with your paperwork in hand, although it has a 6-month expiry. So just think about the timing on that. And then eventually, yes, you can convert the temp resident to the permanent resident. There's a video on the channel. It's an interview with Joseph Guznai, covers all the visa stuff. So I would definitely check that out and should answer all your questions. All right, here I've got this arrow again in the way of this question. It's the last one. I'm going to guess through it here. Cost to put something system in a rural property, average price range. Oof. It ends with a C. I'm going to say it's septic. Going with septic. Yeah. Okay. Cost to put a septic system in a rural property, average price range. A couple of grand, Roman. It's very inexpensive. They do biodigesters. You used to be able to get them done for about $800. I think that's gone up a little bit now, maybe. Installed. I'm talking about the whole nine. So under $2,000, you're all set with your septic, and they're good. They're good systems. Okay, that finishes last week's. Last week was popular, and we didn't even get on. So appreciate those questions, guys. And we'll get to this week's questions now. Okay. I think we did that. Let's see. Can you talk about? No, let's cover this. Can you talk about the road infrastructure in Loja and Vilcabamba, the road to Catamayo from Vilcabamba, and just your current opinion on the state of infrastructure? Yeah, I mean, in general, infrastructure here is fantastic. So that's water, electric, roads, internet, certainly sewer, airports, ports, all of that stuff here is fantastic. Now, are there some bumpy dirt roads out in the middle of nowhere? Absolutely. Are there landslides occasionally where, during rainy season, if it's raining a lot, where you'll have stuff starting to come down and they'll have to go clear it out and there'll be a little bit of inconvenience? Sure, that stuff happens. Are there, occasionally roads where there's some potholes and stuff like that until they fix them? Yes. But in general, the roads are fantastic. There's highways all over this country. This whole area has paved highways everywhere. The road from here to Loja is a paved highway. All the cities, of course, are all paved. The towns are paved in the center, in the town parts, and then it gets into dirt roads as you get outside the towns. The road to the airport in Catamayo from Vilcabamba is good. There's a few sections of it that are a little bumpy where it turns to dirt for a few minutes, or a minute or something, but it's paved the whole way minus couple of tiny little sections. So yeah, I don't know if you've got anything to add to that.
No, I agree with you. I've gotten used to the infrastructure. I think it's great. I just want to, on a side note, like I've had clients here that were from like a major city. They're not used to like bumpy dirt roads. They're not used to, going between mountains, curvy roads and stuff like that. If you're used to like, 4-lane highways that are straight lines, like it's not like that, right? You're going through mountains, in the valley, sometimes following the river, and there are a lot of turns. But yeah, overall the roads are really good. They've been improved majorly, I believe, by Rafael Correa's government. Is that correct, Jesse? Did a good job at improving the roads. People love them for that. And yeah, to me they're great, But yeah, you do have the occasional. The main roads that are not drive-throughs, if I understand correctly, typically are not paved. When it's a drive-through that's going to somewhere else, it's usually not paved.
Okay. Do you ever use air conditioning in Vilcabamba or just ceiling fans? Yeah, I've only seen air conditioning in Vilcabamba once in my life. I do have a friend who's very sensitive to climate, who's putting an air conditioner in her house. So that will be the second. But of all of the houses that I've ever, been in, which is a lot in Vilcabamba, I've seen one air conditioner. And that's just because it never gets super hot. The hottest you'll ever get is the mid 80s. And that's not frequent. You're usually topping out at, in the upper 70s to the low 80s is usually where you're topping out at your daytime high. So you just don't really need it. But if you're very sensitive to temperature, certainly they exist. You can put them in. It's not a problem. They're not even super expensive. But yeah, most people, I don't even have fans because to me, it never gets hot enough for that. But certainly people do have fans in Vilcabamba.
Yeah, I was going to add to that. The type of construction makes a huge difference on the inside temperature of the house. So, the locals back in the days, it's always tapia, which is rammed earth, or adobe, which is thick clay bricks. These keep, if it's really, really hot outside, you're not going to feel hot inside at all. It's very nice and fresh and cool indoors. And the opposite happens too. When it's cold outside at night, the heat from the walls will go indoors. So it's really nice. Bricks sort of have that thermal mass as well, but not as much. They're thinner and they're drier. And also, like if you have a tin roof, kind of like behind me, but you don't have tiles on top, that will make your house really, really warm as well. So maybe your friend or somebody could think it's really, really hot because the way the house is built makes the heat sort of trapped in or come into the house. So that's something to keep in mind as well. We use fans, once in a while. We have a few fans. We don't use them all the time, but sometimes if it's a really hot, humid day or the rainy season, the sun's out, might turn on the fan. That's about it.
Yep. Okay. What about heating houses? So this is where you get into the whole debate, right, about some of these cities and the Cuencas and the Quitos. There's no heating in Ecuador. Like there's no such thing. I've never seen other than fire, other than a stove, like, or a fireplace, I should say. Not generally speaking, not a stove, a fireplace. Excuse me. That's the only heating I've ever seen. And there are definitely areas where you want heating. Now, where we are, absolutely not. So, I would make the argument occasionally it'd be nice to have heating in Loja, but there isn't any. And in Cuenca, where it's much colder, there isn't any. And in Quito, where it's much colder than that, even there isn't any. That to me is an issue. Like I couldn't live in Cuenca because it's just too cold to not have heat. But yeah, in Vilcabamba, it's unnecessary completely. You get into the 50s sometimes at night. That's it. You're usually not even. Usually you're in the low 60s, mid 60s at night, or into the upper 50s. during the day, it's always warm and comfortable. So no heat, but there's no heat anywhere in Ecuador that I've ever seen.
Well, I have to say though, we have an electric fireplace that's, we bought it. It did come with the house that we turn on at night. Sometimes my wife gets cold. So yeah, some people are more, they feel cold easier. I don't have a problem with that, but you can get like heating devices for sure. Like there's little heaters you can buy, electric heaters type of thing. There's a propane heaters. I've seen people have that. It's usually outside. I think Ryan's got one on his porch there. Balcony.
Yeah, the outdoor heaters. Yeah.
Yeah. So you might want to have a little something like that, but it's not common. Yeah, I mean, you do have fireplace in the colder areas. You go to Cuenca, some of these old homes, they have fireplace. You literally have to make a fire every night. It's places like that. Yes, it doesn't get that cold, but you might want to have some type of electric heater if you get cold feet or something.
Yeah, no, I absolutely. I mean, when I was, I thought they were asking, I assumed they were asking, about like heating systems for a house, but yes, the space heaters. And when I lived in Loja, I had a little space heater. Absolutely. I kept one at the office too. I know Ryan brings one to Cuenca when he goes to Cuenca. And I remember one time Loja was in the middle of this terrible cold snap years ago when I was living there. And I went to the Kiwi had just opened, and I went to Kiwi to get one of those space heaters, and they were sold out. Everybody was buying the space heaters because we had a stretch where we were down, maybe in the upper 40s or something, which was absolutely freezing. So, what is the cost of the bus system in Loja? Do they take coins or do they use a card? Gosh, I lived in Loja for so many years. I think I've been on the bus once. They used to be coins. It's probably a card now, but honestly, I have no idea. I haven't rode the bus in years. I think at one point it was like 25 more. I don't know. Have you ridden the bus in Loja anytime recently?
No, not recently. No, many years back, I've taken a bus in Loja. I did that very few times, actually. I love walking Loja when I have time. No, I don't have enough time, but I used to just love walking because it's a very walkable city. You're not going to go usually very far. And if you need to, you get a taxi for $1.25 or whatever. So I have taken a bus a few times at which point. So I don't know. Sometimes it's really weird because you get on the bus, there's a bunch of people waiting. Like you have to give them coins and they give you your change, and it's this whole commotion sometimes. Like you're looking for the right amount of coinage. But yeah, they might have cards now.
Yeah, but they're safe and they're plentiful. So the bus systems run everywhere and they're totally safe in Loja, and you can use them, and they're very cheap, whatever they cost. We have our first, Carl, I think we have our first official troll in this chat, which I think makes us, I think that means something. I think that's a good sign when you get trolls. I think that you've arrived at a certain level, and I'm just gonna say that I'm just gonna chalk it up to that. Regarding some of the properties that you have listed, would you hike into? Listed that you would hike into? Do those trails cross private properties, or are the trails considered public? Yeah, so as long as there's an established what they call camino, which is like trail, as long as it's established, there's a law in Ecuador. You can't cut. It doesn't matter how many private properties it goes through. You can't close it. You can't stop people from accessing their land. So I assume, I don't know the inventory, but this has always been our policy. I mean, we've never sold a property. We never would sell a property where you doesn't have access. Now, whether or not you can turn that access into a road, that's a different question. That would be case by case, because you do need, technically you don't, but in reality you do need all the neighbors' permission to do that, that it's going to go through their property. Usually you can do that. We've worked that out for clients many times. It can be quite a process, and sometimes you're paying and all that sort of thing. But yes, you can't block people's access. Once there's an existing trail, that's it. And anything that we're listing, is not going to be something you can get blocked from access. Hey guys, can you talk about the weather in Vilcabamba? Are you wearing shorts or pants most of the time? Great question. So, I don't know if Carl, have I ever seen you in a pair of shorts? I don't know if I've ever seen your legs, man. You gotta show those sexy legs, Carl.
I used to wear a lot more shorts. I used to wear a lot more shorts. I mean, of course, if I play sports, I'll wear shorts. But because of the no-see-ums and the bugs, I've just kind of learned to wear pants because I've had a few times where like my legs would just get destroyed by no-see-ums, and those are seasonal. They're different areas. Maybe I lived, in different areas where there were more bugs, but I've noticed the locals never wear shorts. I just stopped really wearing shorts most of the time, like my daily activities. But you wear shorts all the time, Jesse. You're probably fine.
I wear shorts all the time. Yeah, I mean, I think I think that generally speaking, during the day, you're going to be more comfortable in shorts. There's going to be occasional times where it's cool enough, even during the day, that you'd want pants. Most of the time in the evenings and early mornings, you're going to be more comfortable in pants. So usually, that's kind of how the weather is. Again, your daytime highs, generally speaking, are mid 70s to low 80s. Usually it's more like upper 70s to low 80s. Most of the time, you can occasionally have days where your daytime high would be upper 60s or low 70s, but that's rare. And you can have occasional days that your daytime high is over 85, 86, 87, 88. Again, very rare. And then your nighttime lows, 50s and 60s. So very often low 60s. So that's kind of your weather here all year. Rainy season, you get usually a shower in the afternoon, not every day, but often you'll get a shower in the afternoon. Sometimes it'll rain overnight. That's kind of your rainy season schedule with rain. During dry season, you get almost no rain at all. So that's kind of the rundown on the weather here in Vilcabamba. There is a couple of months in July and August where you can get a decent amount of wind. So that's something to be aware of. Yep. Okay. Okay, we got that. What is the best road atlas for Ecuador that you can recommend? Are there local road maps that we can order? I mean, Google Maps works here just fine. I'm sure they have other ones that I'm not aware of, but that's what I use. The apps on your phone, they all work here.
Yeah, because I don't think there's road atlas. Like people ask me that question, I never know how to answer because I've never seen it. Like actual road maps, that's Google Maps. I have to say there's a few roads that like you can't see on Google Maps, but that's very rare. Like very, very rare. Most roads are very easily.
Yeah. Carl, your mic is not fantastic, just FYI. If there's nothing you can do, it's fine. I can hear you, but it's definitely not ideal. Does anyone ever put up yurts on their properties, small houses trend, etc.? I wouldn't say it's a trend, although certainly people put up yurts. In fact, I don't know if they're still around or not. There used to be a company that was doing that. There probably still is. People do build yurts. The small house trend probably hasn't hit to a very large degree, although I do see glamping has started. I've seen some geodesic dome type glamping going on, somewhat of a trend there. Some container homes here and there, but that would be an interesting trend to start. It's probably started already, but it's pretty early on for sure.
Yeah, I have to say I've seen quite a few. Well, maybe like 4 or 5 different yurts since I've been here. I had some friends that ordered yurts and have them, so they are available in Ecuador. That's basically my point. You can actually get them here. There are people that make them here in Ecuador.
Yep. Okay. How about veterinary service in Vilca and Loja? Are there options? You have an experience with vets you've used? Tons of options, tons of vets, 3 or 4 in Vilcabamba, a bazillion in Loja. Some are good, some are bad, probably just like anywhere, much less expensive than back home and not as used to. I think back home they're doing MRIs and x-rays for animals and they're doing all kinds of fancy surgeries. They're probably not doing that same level of stuff here, but certainly you can get good veterinary care for your pets. When will crypto exchanges have links to Ecuadorian banks? Many depend on this for their retirement. Yeah, great question. I have no idea. Ecuador currently does not have a regulatory framework for crypto. I'm sure they will at some point. I kind of prefer it that way, but I'm sure at some point they will, and we'll see how they decide to treat it.
So I actually know that there's a bank that, or a crypto exchange that links to Ecuadorian banks. I don't know the name, but I do know it exists, and I've been told a few times that it works. I think the fees might be a little higher than you want, but still, if you want to turn, crypto into cash through a bank, there's an exchange in Ecuador that does it. I have to find a name, and I can post it in the comments or something after when I find it.
All right, Carl, next question is for you. Can you read that? It's in French.
I'll read it in French. Est-ce qu'il y a une communauté de preppers à Vilcabamba? Is there a community of preppers in Vilcabamba? Preppers. Definitely. Yeah. I mean, a lot of people here would call themselves preppers for sure. When I first came here, I was kind of a prepper myself. I actually bought I think thousands of dollars of beans and rice and stuff like that, and made buckets. Eventually it slowly ate it over time, the dogs. But we were prepping to some extent. But I think most people that come here do have that kind of mindset that maybe some worldwide events might happen, and it's good to be ready for these eventual things. So they're real preppers that have bunkers under their houses, and are packing up food and arms and stuff like that. But they're not yeah. What would you say, Jesse?
Yeah, I agree. That's definitely the mindset of definitely not everyone, not even close to everyone. I don't even know if it would be a majority, but a higher number, a higher percentage of people here than in other places are probably a little bit more pessimistic on global events than they would be in a place like New York City or something, right? So people have a little bit more of that mentality of hey, so what happens if the dollar breaks, if there's an issue in the debt markets, or there's an issue with the dollar, or there's an issue in the global supply chain, or X, Y, or Z. And so people are more oriented that way. True preppers, there's probably very few, but there certainly are some. And it's not a place where prepping has the same context as it does, I think, somewhere else, right? There's no winter here, and Ecuador exports food hand over fist. So it's not a country where, you're going to freeze and starve under any scenario. So prepping, quote unquote, I think takes on a different sort of meaning in that environment. Okay. Hey guys, have you visited Guaylabamba, Mitad del Mundo, Cotacachi? How does it compare to Vilca? I have not. I've been to Cotacachi. I have not been to the line where you can step on one side or the other side of the equator type of thing. Have you been up there?
I haven't been to any of those. I'm assuming Guayabamba is around Cuenca, but I'm not sure. That's
Guaylabamba.
Guayabamba, yeah.
Guaylabamba, yeah. I've never heard of Guaylabamba. I assume that was part of the Mitad del Mundo, but I don't know. That I've never heard of. Cotacachi, I've been. Cotacachi is a nice town. I mean, it's a nice town. It's an interesting place. It's a little cold for me. I definitely like the warmer weather. There's a lot of expats there. I've heard they have some issues with crime. I don't know how true that is. It's a nice area. It's a market I'd like to get into as a real estate company at some point in the future. The north is much different than the south. It's much more developed. It's much more sort of standard. You get 4 or 5 lane highways up north, and you've got much more development. Has a much more international feel as far as being developed, right? And therefore I think there's a little bit less opportunities, a little bit more exploited. I'm kind of a contrarian. I really prefer the sort of traditional values and the old school mentality and the old school towns and the greater opportunity of the sort of less developed South. But it's really nice up there for sure in the Cotacachi area. Guaylabamba, you got me there. I don't know where that is.
Yeah, I'm just looking it up here on Google. Guayabamba is 29 kilometers northeast of Quito. There's about 12,000 people, and it's 7,000 feet above sea level. So quite a bit higher than Vilcabamba. Definitely is going to be colder up there. There must be more expats up there. I've never actually heard of it. I know a lot of expats are in Cotacachi as well. For the record, we've had a few clients that are moving to Vilcabamba from Cotocachi because they report that there's more crime up there, and also that overall the community in Vilcabamba is a little more alternative. The community in Cotocachi, I'm being told, is a little more mainstream, a little bit a little more, a little different in that sense.
Yeah. Hey, Chris, hope you're doing well. Raul says, salutations. I would like to know, if I retire and live in Ecuador, how do I file my taxes? Thanks in advance. I'm going to assume you mean taxes in the US. I don't know, but if you're talking about taxes in Ecuador, it is 97%, 99%. I'm going 99. I might go 99.9% simpler to file your taxes here than it is in the US. Basically, they just take your taxes out of what you're doing already for most things in Ecuador, other than certain things they don't. But the tax code here is very simple. It's pretty friendly. We've made lots of money on lots of things and have never paid very much in taxes. You do pay the VAT, the 12% value added tax. But then if you run businesses, you get to offset that against all kinds of things. It's a pretty friendly tax structure. Once you understand it, you get a good accountant and you don't have to do anything. It's a very, very simple process. Now, if you're talking about in the US, it would be the same as you would if you were in the US. The US does have all these reporting requirements for overseas, FATCA, amongst other things. They want you to report your foreign income, your foreign holdings, your foreign real estate holdings, etc. So there is a process there, and obviously your accountant in the States would know about that. What about solar? Solar has gotten popular-ish here, and guys, please stop putting questions in if you would. We'll try to get to the rest of them, but we're already over time here, and Carl's on vacation, and we're stealing time he's in his bunker up there in the mountains, and stealing his family time. So let's cap it here. We'll try to run through the rest of these questions. We do appreciate you guys tuning in and making it a great chat. But yeah, solar has become more common. They do have some solar farms as well. And they also, individuals, do solar pretty commonly, or somewhat commonly. Micro hydro is pretty common as well. So there's definitely a whole, thriving kind of off-grid community for sure. Okay. Are solar panels and other solar system components readily available, or is that something to bring in when moving? Both. They're readily available, and it'd be advantageous to bring it in your shipping container when you come, if you decided to go that route. What is the best way to find available houses for rent in Vilcabamba and surrounding areas, especially if you're abroad? Gosh, that is really tough. I wish we have to find a solution for that at some point. We've tried to run rental businesses various times just so we could help people. It doesn't work. It's very difficult. So there are some people here who do that. Some people put stuff on Facebook Marketplace. You can go there, but there isn't really a great source where you can just find everything. Anything to add to that?
Yeah, I mean, if you want to write me at carl@abecuador.com, I can get you in touch with someone that works for us at Abundant Living who knows about rentals, and she might be able to help you. Now, there's not that much available, but the words go around, and we can help you find something if you're coming at some point down here.
Yep. What is the current price of gasoline in Loja? God, I don't even know. Do you know what it is these days?
Yeah, well, gasoline is $2.55 a gallon.
Okay. Yeah, I have diesel. I think it's like maybe 160, 180, 140, something like that.
I think it's 195.
195.
At least in Malacatos.
Yeah, I think it's the same pretty much everywhere. So that I could easily have that wrong. Okay. Are the locals more likely to tell you the bitter truth, or what you want me to hear? I'm going to enjoy it, or what you want to hear. I'm going to enjoy answering this. Can I get my car fixed by tomorrow, but the mechanic knows it'll take a couple of days, right, to get parts? Yes. So I would say that. So I've had a joke going back to 2013 when I got here with my former business partner, what we called it the Ecuadorian no, right? Which is kind of like, yeah. That's no. That's a hard no, right? So yes, people here absolutely will they're people pleasers 100%. And they will absolutely tend to tell you what you want to hear, and they will tend to agree, and they will tend to say yes, and then just do what they know how to do. So that is a cultural thing here for sure. Once you've been here a while, you learn how to suss out what they're actually saying. You also learn how to go with the flow of it, right? So both, you learn how to accept that things take the time they take, and you also learn how to read people's responses so you know what they're actually saying, because very few people will tell you no, right? People will kind of, yeah, which means no. And so, that is a process, I think, to learn that. And definitely you can find a lot of people here who are just kind of like, yeah, we'll have it tomorrow. And that doesn't mean a whole lot. That could mean 3 days, 5 days, 10 days, 130 days, that goes on. That being said, once you're here a little while, and certainly if you're coming through us, we'll hook you up with all these people. But once you're here a little while, you learn the people who don't have that attitude, who are going to give you a straight answer on everything, and you're going to end up working with them, right, on for your various things, including mechanic and all that kind of stuff. But I would say culturally, yes, that's fairly common.
That's right.
Okay, since Ecuador is on the US dollar, how is it going to affect the economy if the dollar is going to lose value? Do they have a backup plan if the dollar is going to crash, or money going digital in the US? Yeah, that's a great question. And obviously this is opinion, but I'd like to, I'm happy to share mine. So I'm of the belief, right? I'm somebody who studied money creation extensively, the money system extensively, how money works, value, relative value, real value, etc. So, wealth cycles, the whole nine. So I'm a big believer in value as opposed to just pricing something in an inflating currency and looking at its value from that perspective, because really you're just looking at the value of the currency and not the actual value of the asset. In my opinion, if the dollar falters, there'll probably be some short-term pain in Ecuador, I would imagine, because we do use the dollar here. Long-term, I think it will actually be a net benefit to Ecuador, because if the dollar is in bad shape, that means the developed economies are in bad shape. The economies that have very complicated supply chains, complicated economies, complicated systems of production. And the places like Ecuador that have no winter, that produce food, that are a very simple economy, that do not have the levels of bureaucracy and just the level of systems and so forth, and the very complicated supply chains, and have an amazing amount of fertile land, right? These are food producers, no winter, etc. That value, I believe, will maintain. And if anything, it will increase. So I think that Ecuador would be in great shape in that sort of environment. That's something that could even be a net plus. I mean, if you look at what's happening right now, you've got food prices inflating, going up, right, around the world. Ecuador is an exporter of food. The cost, we do have a tiny amount of inflation in Ecuador in certain things, basically in imported products, or certain things related to gas, because even though it's the price Carl just mentioned, it's gone up a lot because they got rid of subsidies. Even though we have a tiny bit of inflation in Ecuador, on a relative basis, people are getting more for their food items than their cost of living is going up. So people's wealth is actually increasing in this economy. And I think in an environment where the dollar is either inflating or whatever the scenario is, I think this is a pretty good scenario for countries like Ecuador that have simple, agrarian, export-driven, food-based economies. Ecuador does, to my knowledge, I don't have the details on this. My understanding is they do have a backup currency. I don't know much about that. Yeah, that's my opinion. Do you have other thoughts on that?
No, I think you got it. That was good.
What about soil testing for farmland? Any local experts that can help you get your farm game strong? Absolutely. I know them all. We'd be happy to help you with that, Roman. Not coming this Saturday. Just wanted to know about the market close. See you in late July. I will stop by and say hello.
All right.
Be there the whole month. Awesome, Nathan. Looking forward to meeting you. Can you interview the juice guy on a future episode? He seems like a real 40-plus year OG of Vilcabamba. I guess he's referring to Dennis. I should interview Dennis. It's a great idea. I'll add him to the list and give him a shout. He's a friend. Is there a limit on how many habitable structures you can build on a property in Loja province / Vilcabamba? Sometimes. Usually there's more. You can usually get anything approved as long as you work the right channels and go about it right. But usually what they have is a percentage of the total land that is allowed to be built on. So generally speaking, I'm not aware of any home dwelling caps. It could exist outside of my knowledge, but I'm not aware of that. There are percentage of land built on caps depending on the zoning in the area. Have you ever seen a Bitcoin ATM in Ecuador? Future business idea. Your thoughts? Excellent. I think it'd be a great idea. I haven't seen one. I have heard, someone told me there was one in Guayaquil. I don't know if that's true or not.
Yeah, I just saw an article. I think I saw that on maybe you saw that as well. It's on a WhatsApp group that we're both part of, that Bitcoin ATMs are coming to Ecuador. I think there's one in Cuenca now.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I read about it.
Cool.
Really good idea, though. I mean, it'd be great to have one in Vilcabamba. Like I would use it a lot.
Yeah, and Vilcabamba would do well. A lot of people here are into crypto.
Yeah.
Okay. Are there bars, venues for live music, expats involved in local music scene that you know of? Yeah, there are bars, there are venues for live music, several of them. There are expats certainly involved in that. And then there's a lot of stuff like that in Loja too. So depending on where you're talking about. And I think that stuff just kind of continues to grow. So it's exciting. It's nice. I think that's, as Vilcabamba gets a little more populated, those things, seem to be doing a little bit better here as well. But yeah, I don't know how many nights a week is there live music somewhere? Probably at least 2 to 3, I would say. Is that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm surprised. The last little while, I've gone to quite a few restaurants, and there was a lot of live music. Like every time I've gone to Caro Azul, for example, there's live music. El Mexicano, there's live music. There's a lot of opportunities and more opportunities, I'm sure, on the way. The more Vilcabamba expands and grows.
All right, guys, thank you for joining us. Again, we'd love to see you here on July 16th for the retreat. We put that link early on in the chat, and we appreciate your questions and you guys hanging with us here again. Have a great weekend, and we'll talk to you guys again next Thursday at 5 o'clock Central.